Welcome to this episode of History of the Popes, where we continue our exploration of the remarkable figures who have guided the Church through the centuries. Today we turn our attention to Pope Benedict XIII, who reigned from 1724 to 1730. Born Pietro Francesco Orsini on February 2, 1649, in Gravina in Puglia, he came from one of the most ancient and illustrious families of Rome, the Orsini, who had already given the Church two popes, Celestine III and Nicholas III. As the eldest son and heir to the Duchy of Gravina, young Pietro might have been expected to pursue a life of noble privilege and political influence. Yet at the age of 18, against the strong opposition of his family, he renounced his inheritance, entered the Dominican order in Venice, and took the religious name Vincenzo Maria Orsini. This decision marked the beginning of a life characterized by profound austerity, scholarly dedication, and pastoral zeal. He was ordained a priest in 1671 and soon distinguished himself as a professor of philosophy at Brescia. In 1672, much against his own inclination, Pope Clement X, perhaps influenced by familial connections, elevated him to the cardinalate at the remarkably young age of 23. From that point forward, Orsini's career unfolded in a series of episcopal appointments: Bishop of Manfredonia in 1675, Bishop of Cesena in 1680, and finally Archbishop of Benevento in 1686, a see he would hold for nearly 44 years until his death. In Benevento he proved himself a model pastor. He rebuilt churches damaged by the devastating earthquakes of 1688 and 1702, organized relief for the suffering population, held synods to promote discipline among the clergy, and maintained a simple, almost monastic manner of life amid the demands of a large archdiocese. His friendship with the mystic Seraphina of God further deepened his spiritual orientation. Throughout these decades, he participated in 5 conclaves, always as a figure respected for his learning and integrity, yet never as a serious contender for the papacy. That changed in May 1724, following the death of Innocent XIII. The conclave was protracted and deeply divided, with factions pulling in different directions and no obvious candidate emerging. In the end, the cardinals turned to the 75-year-old Dominican Archbishop of Benevento, seeing in him a man of prayer, detachment from worldly ambition, and political neutrality, qualities they believed would allow the Church to recover a measure of calm after years of tension. Orsini himself initially refused the election, protesting his unworthiness, but he was finally persuaded by the master of the Dominican order, Agustin Pipia, and accepted on May 29th. He chose the name Benedict XIII in honor of the Dominican Pope, Benedict XI, though he briefly considered Benedict XIV before being reminded that the earlier Benedict XIII, 1394 to 1423, had been an anti-pope during the Great Western Schism, leaving the number free for a legitimate pontiff. Benedict XIII's pontificate, though brief, was marked above all by his unwavering commitment to ecclesiastical discipline and the interior life of the Church. He retained his Dominican simplicity, living in a manner that astonished observers accustomed to the grandeur of the papal court. He rose early for prayer, celebrated Mass with deep devotion, and took special delight in the liturgy, often presiding personally at solemn functions. During the Jubilee year of 1725, he opened the famous Spanish Steps, connecting the Piazza di Spagna to the Church of Trinità dei Monti, a project that still stands as one of the most beautiful urban improvements of the age. He also founded the University of Camerino and devoted considerable energy to encouraging diocesan seminaries through a special congregation established for that purpose. Perhaps most striking was his effort to reform the morals of the Roman clergy and hierarchy. He issued decrees against clerical extravagance, forbade the wearing of wigs and beards by priests, and even constructed a special prison for those who violated disciplinary norms. He suppressed the public lottery in Rome and the Papal States, viewing it as a source of moral harm. In 1725, he convened a provincial council in the Lateran Basilica, where he addressed issues of clerical conduct with characteristic directness. His own life served as the most eloquent sermon: modest in dress, frugal in habits, generous to the poor, and tireless in visiting hospitals and prisons. Yet Benedict XIII was no mere ascetic withdrawn from the world. He was a scholar who wrote theological works, a promoter of the veneration of saints through numerous canonizations and beatifications, among them Gregory VII, John of the Cross, Aloysius Gonzaga, and Vincent de Paul, and a defender of sound doctrine. He continued the Church's opposition to Jansenism while allowing the Dominicans, faithful to their Augustinian heritage, a certain latitude in preaching on grace. He elevated 29 cardinals in 12 consistories and consecrated a great number of bishops, so that a significant portion of the modern episcopal lineage traces back to him. For all these accomplishments, the pontificate was not without shadow. Benedict XIII, by temperament and training, had little taste or aptitude for the political and administrative complexities of governing the Papal States. He entrusted much of the day-to-day business to his secretary, Cardinal Niccolò Coscia, a man of considerable ability but questionable integrity. Coscia's avarice and mismanagement led to financial abuses that depleted the papal treasury and damaged the Church's reputation. Relations with the great Catholic powers, France, Spain, and the Empire, deteriorated amid disputes over ecclesiastical privileges and the prevailing spirit of absolutism. The Pope's benevolence toward his native Benevento, where he made 2 pastoral visits, was sometimes exploited by those around him. Benedict XIII died on February 21, 1730, at the age of 81, after contracting a chill at the funeral of a cardinal. His autopsy revealed an unusually large heart, a fitting symbol, perhaps, of the generous spirit that animated him. He was buried in Santa Maria sopra Minerva, the great Dominican church of Rome, beneath a monument that captures something of his humble yet commanding presence. In the end, Benedict XIII stands as a poignant reminder that the papacy, for all its weight of governance and diplomacy, remains at its core a spiritual office. Here was a man who, thrust late in life into the highest responsibility, sought above all to live as a faithful Dominican friar and a devoted shepherd. His pontificate may not have altered the course of European politics or resolved the great questions of the age, but it offered a quiet, compelling witness to the power of personal holiness amid the complexities of ecclesiastical life. Thank you for joining us on History of the Popes. Until next time, may the Lord grant us all the grace to seek first the kingdom of God.